Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Adrian, and in this video I'm going to show you how I modify most of the backpacks I buy. I just picked up the 511 Tactical Rush 24 2.0 backpack a few days ago, and I did a video review on that backpack, so if you haven't watched that yet, be sure you check it out after you watch this. But I need to modify the backpack to make it a little more functional for me to use. So I'm going to show you what I do to it and how I do it in this video. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, to do these modifications, you're going to need some paracord, something to measure with, a lighter, a razor blade, and some scissors. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do on this backpack is modify the rain flaps so they aren't as tight to the zippers. The purpose of the rain flap is to cover the zipper, but because of that, it can make the zipper a little more difficult to open and close, especially if the backpack is fully loaded. So to mitigate that, I'm going to put a cut right here in this nylon and then melt that down. The first thing you're going to want to do if you're going to do this is get a really sharp razor blade and keep your fingers out of the way, of course. But you need to press the fabric away from the zipper so you don't cut the actual bag itself. And then I just do really small little cuts and rock the razor blade back and forth. And the moment you break the material, you'll hear it cut through and you'll feel it cut through. Then you can back off some of the pressure and just very slowly cut. It doesn't take a lot to cut this fabric. So just a little bit of outward pressure and just slightly pressing that razor blade in. Just like this. One thing you want to make sure you don't do is cut into the stitching that's right here. If you cut into that, then you can start to compromise the integrity of the structure. You see how I barely missed it right there? I didn't cut into this stitching. So avoid that, don't cut into that. And then, if you want to get really fancy, you can sew this. You could just put I think it's called a whip stitch that you would put in here by hand, where you drive the thread in and then just circle around and around and around and clean that up. I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's necessary. Nylon and polyester, a lot of these synthetic fabrics, they're essentially plastic, so you can just melt them, which is a great feature. And that's what the lighter's for. So you just take the lighter and just run it past. You don't have to have a lot of contact time. Just run it past, and then you can clean it up a little bit with your fingers. It's not really that hot. Sometimes you can melt it together that way, like that, by just pressing it together. May or may not hold, probably won't hold very long if there's a lot of pressure on it, but you can kind of melt it together and stick it together. The melted plastic sort of acts like a glue. But now you can see I still have something of a rain flap there. It's arguably not as effective as it was before, but it doesn't prohibit the zipper from moving as much. So I'm gonna go through and do that to every part of this backpack where the rain flap is covering a zipper. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is shorten all of the internal zipper pulls. So like this one here, these in here. So any internal zipper pull. I think they just make them a little bit too long, so I'll show you how I do that now. So the first thing I do is I have to loosen the overhand knot that they've put into this, and I adjust it to the length that I want it. So in this case, I'm just going to move it down a little bit, and I'm going to make all of these, every zipper pull, I'm going to make it about 1.5 inches from the zipper itself. So that's about where I want it right there. Once I get it to about where I want it, I set the knot just by working it back and forth and tightening it. Yeah, about 1.5 inches. And then I will simply cut right here with scissors and then melt the material with a lighter. So that is how that looks. If you want, you can leave a little bit longer tail than I've left. Sometimes with just an overhand knot like this, when you're constantly pulling on it, this knot, you could pull it over itself and pull it out if there's not a little bit of a tail. For me, that's really never been a problem since I don't put a lot of force on these zippers, but if you're concerned about that, you can always do that. Okay, another thing I like to do on my 511 bags is take out these pieces of nylon here that are used to secure things in these pockets. I never use these. I don't use these straps to secure anything in these pockets, but I do like to have pretty quick and easy access to these pockets. So I'm gonna take this out. It's pretty straightforward how you do it. Grab the piece of nylon and then just pull it up and work the fabric all the way up. It can be kind of tough to do and you need a little bit of hand strength to do it, but you certainly can do it. And then you can see where it's tied in, well, it's sewn in rather, to the base here. And I'm just gonna take a pair of scissors and cut right above where it's sewn in. If you wanted to get like super fancy here, you could actually unstitch this material and just cut this out completely. But I'm not gonna unstitch it because it's in the bottom of a pocket and it doesn't matter to me that it's down there. So there it is. Grab my trusty scissors and just slowly work around there. There it is. Then I'm gonna clean that up so it doesn't fray just by melting it. Okay, so got both of those done, and now I've got great access to these pockets without these little straps in the way. The next thing I'm gonna do is really the most fundamental part of all of this. It's my favorite backpack modification. You can see I've done it to my Kelty backpack over here, although I'm gonna use a slightly different method for this bag. I put these thumb pulls made out of paracord onto the backpack straps, so they're easier to get a hold of and grab when the backpack is on my back and under load. As you can see with my Kelty here, if these straps, these paracord straps that I've put on, if they weren't attached to this strap, there wouldn't be too much to grab onto to tighten and cinch the strap down. And the same is the case with the 511 bag. You can see how little material there is there to actually grab onto and pull this strap tight. What 511 has done, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this on the camera or not, but they've taken this nylon webbing and sewn it back onto itself, so it creates a little loop here. And I'm gonna run paracord through this loop and then tie it with a fisherman's knot to create a thumb pull like this. Now you'll notice this one isn't done that way. I'm going to do these different ways because Kelty didn't do what 511 did where they sew the strap back onto itself. There is no loop here, so I couldn't run it through anything. So what I did is I used this kind of a knot. I use this knot a lot, I'm gonna cover this as well. I'll show you how to do both of these, but it's a slightly different method for each kind of a strap. So I'll show you how to do both in this video. For this, the first thing you need to do is figure out how much paracord you're actually gonna need. And it's kind of a guessing game, just depending on how big you want your thumb pull and how you tie the knot. I'm gonna start with 15 inches. I'm gonna see how that works out. That'll probably be too much, but I'm just gonna mark it at 15 inches. With my finger here, I'm just gonna slightly melt the paracord a little bit, just so it holds when I cut it. Grab my scissors, find that melted spot, snip right there. And one thing I like to do when I cut paracord is start at the end that I haven't cut the solid end and run it all the way down like this. That aligns all the fibers and pushes everything out to the end, and then I can get a good clean melt on there. Just like that. And then from here, you're gonna run the paracord through this little sewn loop that they've done. Oh, that's gonna be way too big. I can already tell it's gonna be too big. Okay, 15 inches was way too big. So I'm gonna use a 10-inch piece of paracord now. And to tie this knot, take the paracord, feed it through the loop, the sewn back loop onto the webbing. And then you're going to take the piece in your right hand, put it behind the piece in your left hand. You can see it's crossing behind it. Come over the top of the piece on the left side, back around both pieces, and then pass it through the loop. Pass the working end through the loop. I know it's probably pretty tough to see on camera because it's so small, but what you can see here is that it's just an overhand knot. So then I'm going to work that until it's closed. I'm going to dress the knot. I'm not going to set it yet. I'm just going to dress it so it's not set. It's just dressed around this other piece. And then the same thing with this other leg here. Go around the back, up and over the top, and then through the loop. Now I'll dress that knot. I'm not going to set it yet. I'm just going to dress it. Okay, both knots are dressed. Now you're going to take the outside part and pull it away from itself. That tightens these two pieces against each other. And the reason that I didn't set the knot yet is because I want to still continue to dress this knot. I don't want these little pieces right here, these little tails, I don't want those to pull through. So I want to leave a little bit there, and you need to work those out, which is basically impossible to do once you set this thing. So I've left about a 1/4 inch for each one of these tails. And then I'm going to take the loop and I'm just going to pull it apart pretty hard. And that sets the knot. So now I have a fisherman's knot that I've used to create a thumb pull for this backpack. And I'm going to do the other side. There we go. So now I have 2 thumb pulls, one on each side for the backpack straps. Makes it really easy to hook your thumbs in here and pull these shut. Okay, now I want to show you how to put some thumb pulls on a backpack that doesn't have a loop sewn into the strap like the 511 does. This is my Kelty backpack right here, and it doesn't have the same kind of loop that my 511 backpack does, so I had to use a slightly different variation to make this thumb pull work. So I'm going to show you now how I did that. Okay, you can see how the Kelty backpack on its strap, all it has is the nylon sewn back over onto itself one time. It doesn't form a loop. And if that is pulled all the way up, like as loose as it will go on your body, it's pretty tough to grab a hold of that and cinch it down. There's really no fabric here to grab onto. And that's why I put these thumb pulls on, because they solve that problem. When it's pulled all the way up, you've got a great thumb pull to pull down. And to do that, we're just going to use a piece of paracord that's 15 inches, and we're going to tie 2 of these knots on here. These are kind of like a hangman's knot or a noose or a uni knot, but it's not actually that kind of a knot. I'm not sure what this is called. If you know, drop it down in the comments. It's very similar to a noose or a hangman's knot, but it's finished a different way, so it's technically not that. Again, I don't know what it's called, but I'll show you how to tie it. To untie, it's pretty simple. You just pull it through itself. And this piece is, okay, so that's right about 15 inches. Now to tie this, the first thing you do is make a bite in the line, and then I like to wrap the working end back around my thumb a few times. So I'll go around once and around twice. You can see that takes up the line pretty quickly. And then you take the working end here and pass it up through both of those loops, just like that. And then you're going to dress the knot, not tighten it yet, don't set it yet, just dress it. So there's one side, and then the other side, same thing. Make the bite, wrap it around a couple of times, take the working end and pass it underneath through both of those loops. And then again, don't set the knot yet, just dress it. Not going to make it really tight, just going to dress it. And the same with this one, I like to leave about a 1/4 of an inch on the tail there. Then on the backpack strap, you have a flat piece of nylon webbing, so you just pinch that. and put a crease into it. And then slip it through one of those eyes. Keep it lined up. And the other side. And now you can set the knot. So to set it, you just hold on to one of the knot bodies and pull it. And do that for the other side as well. And then the more pressure you put on this paracord, the tighter these knots will bite. That's what's great about it. That's also what makes it hard to untie. But you don't want this coming off, so that doesn't really matter. You want something that's going to bite tighter as you pull and put more pressure on it. So that's how you put a thumb pull on a strap that doesn't have a loop sewn into it like the 511 does. All right, one more modification I'm going to do to this bag is take this piece of nylon off that's used to retain the laptop. And this is my gym backpack. I'm not ever going to carry a laptop in this, so I don't need the strap. And even if I were going to carry a laptop in it, this thing is deep enough and secure enough that I think the strap is completely unnecessary. So, just like with the other straps, you want to clear the area, make sure everything's out and away from it, and then take a pair of scissors and just carefully and slowly cut that nylon. Just like that. A tip for cutting nylon too, if as you're closing the blades of the scissors you pull back, it gives you a really smooth, controlled slice. Very smooth and controlled, rather than just trying to cut straight down through. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Grab the lighter. And now this is one thing you want to be careful of. You can see that the area that I'm trying to melt here is against this other nylon on the back. And if I try to melt this section that I just cut, it'll melt through the backpack itself. So I need to find a way to get my hands in there to push this section away and isolate the area that I just cut more. Now that might be kind of tough. I don't think I'm gonna be able to isolate it that well. And I'm gonna have to be really careful when I melt this. In fact, I might not even do it. Well, maybe I get a little bit. I'd be very careful. I'm just getting the very ends of that. That's as much as I'm gonna do because it will melt through this really, really easily. All right, so there you have it. Those are the modifications that I do to my backpacks. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.